Bismillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi. In the name of Allah, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon His final messenger, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, his companions and all those who follow him until Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. We will, inshallah ta'ala, alhamdulillah, there are many people also online who are going to be viewing this class. Already we have 7 that are already viewing the class, and Bi-idhnillah 14 right now as I look 19, so alhamdulillah, it is not about the number, is about the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses the time, and Bi-idhnillah we can all gain the benefit. We are this is round 3, I call it round 3 of the 40 hadith of Imam Nawawi rahimahullah. And basically the idea is to benefit from these narrations from many different angles. So we are on, if we look at the introduction of Imam Nawawi rahimahullah, just for the blessings of it, if we just cover the introduction today, and then tomorrow, next Monday, we will go through the first hadith. That's fine, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses us with time and permits. Imam Nawawi rahimahullah in his introduction says, "Praise belongs to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, the one who sustains the heavens and the earth. Allah, the capable, the one who manages all the creatures, who sent messengers, the blessings of Allah be upon them all." Right? The one who charges with the responsibility of the messengers to guide. Praise be to Allah, the generous, the one who is able to increase by His bounties. And he says, "I witness that there is no God worthy of worship except Allah, the overpowering, the noble, the generous, the forgiven. And I also bear witness that Sayyiduna Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a slave and messenger, and his beloved Al-Habib, and his intimate, and the Khalil, and the best khayru khalqil Rabbil Alameen, the best of the creations, honored by the Quran, which is an everlasting miracle that continues, that time evolves around it doesn't revolve around time. Time revolves around it. Allah is the creator of time, the owner of time, وَهُوَ الدَّهْرُ, and He is time. So Allah's Quran is able to adapt and is suitable for all times. So he says that we have narrated from Ali ibn Abi Talib, from Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, from Mu'adh ibn Jabal, from Abu Darda, from Ibn Umar, from Ibn Abbas, from Anas ibn Malik, from Abu Huraira, from Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. These are famous Sahabis. These are famous Sahabis that we always hear their names being mentioned. Right? And on Umar, on Ibn Umar, on Ibn Abbas, on Anas ibn Malik, on Abu Huraira, Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, may Allah be pleased with them all. From these names mention a hadith, right? And this hadith is what? That whoever preserves 40 hadith from my ummah, right? 40 hadith, whoever from my ummah preserves 40 hadith of the affairs of the deen, Allah will raise them up amongst the righteous company of the ulama and of the people of knowledge. Allah will raise them up. Abu Darda said in his narration, now Imam Nawawi is giving you the variation from the different narration. Abu Darda said that, and I will be from amongst those, I will be for him on the day of rising an intercessor, that the Prophet said, and a witness. Ibn Mas'ud said, and it will be said to him, وَأُدْخُلُ مِنْ كُلِّ بَابٍ, enter from any door of paradise that you want. Right? On Ibn Umar, who said, and he will be recorded, the person who learns 40 hadith will be recorded amongst the people of knowledge. He will be considered amongst the people of knowledge. Now, Imam al-Nawawi rahimahullah said that it has been agreed that this hadith, these ahadith are considered weak. Right? They have different paths, but it's weak. But he also mentions, but the people of knowledge, listen carefully, because the people of knowledge state that in many books that using weak hadith for the fada'il, for the virtues.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
These are on here?
Yes.
Is it on Facebook or?
It's on Dars al-Quran. Dars al-Quran on Facebook. But I'm going to put the link on the Facebook page, inshallah, as well. So the scholars, they say that using weak hadith for the fada'il al-amal, for virtuous actions, is okay. This is where, you know how some people have mentioned reservation for, like, the book Fada'il al-Amal, right, of Imam al-Kandalawi, rahimahullah. But he was a muhaddith. He was a scholar of hadith, right, and he was qualified. So the book is about Fada'il al-Amal. Yes, it has some weak hadith, but the consensus amongst the scholars is that you can use weak ahadith for fada'il. Right? You see how so Imam al-Nawawi is saying this as well. And now Imam al-Nawawi said, and many have written, because of this, many scholars have written 40 hadith. All the way from Abdullah ibn Mubarak to Ibn Aslam al-Tusi, from al-Ajuri, and many other, Daraqutni, etc. And he said, but I have not written these 40 hadith because of that reason. He said, I know that it is permissible to use weak hadith for the fada'il, the virtues. But, however, I am going by this hadith, and this is an authentic hadith, that the Prophet ﷺ said, let the one of you who witnesses convey it to the one who's absent. He said, this is the hadith that I am basing my intention upon. So I made istikhara, so he made istikhara to Allah to bless him in the process. And he said many scholars wrote 40 hadith on many subjects, on manners, on creed. He said, I wrote it upon that which all of the Sharia of Allah revolves upon, the principles. So this is just to show the wisdom of Imam al-Nawawi. He would honor the scholars that wrote before. He would honor them. He would recognize their books. He would recognize, he had manners to recognize their books. And then this shows that in their effort for the deen, they were cautious in how they spend their time and in what projects they embarked. Because Allah doesn't love the musrifun. Allah doesn't love those who waste. Right? Allah doesn't love those who waste. So therefore, When they would do something, they would do it khalisan liwajillah, first of all, sincerely for the sake of Allah, and then they will do it, they will recognize what's available. See, Imam Nawawi is saying, look, all of these books were written about this subject. And he said, I chose to write 40 hadith, but about this other subject. Right? Not because publishing a book for the sake of the name. Some people write books for the sake of putting their name in front of the book. And that's it. Some people know the book, but they don't know the author. They don't know the story. They don't know, how much time did they spend, in this work. So the important thing is, many of the books, the introductions are extremely important. The introduction to know. I did a paper on 4 introductions of Imam Nawawi, and this is inshallah just to conclude this session. The paper was about 4 books. One of the book was the 40 Hadith Imam Nawawi. Second book was Riyadh al-Salihin. Third book was Kitab al-Adhkar. In Ramadan we did after Fajr the introduction of Kitab al-Adhkar. 10 sessions. We did that. And Kitab al-Majmu'. Kitab al-Majmu' is 25 volumes on Islamic law. Okay? And these are works of Imam Nawawi. Of course, Imam Nawawi didn't complete the Majmu'. He did approximately 9 volumes. He passed away, and another Imam picked up and continued working on it. So, in the introduction of each book, in the introduction of 40 Hadith, this is what he said. He said, people wrote about the 40 Hadith. These are the scholars. These are the topics that they wrote about. And this is why I wrote about the 40 Hadith. In Riyadh al-Salihin, he said, I wanted to make it easy on the people. He was considerate about the general. See how sometimes some people are not considerate about the general public. I mean, they have good intention, but sometimes the lectures are above the head of the general people. And it just totally misses the whole point, makes Islam a religion that is just too above the people's heads.
There's no link. Still, she's not finding on Facebook.
Dars Quran. Chalo to put Facebook, Dars Quran. Dars, D-A-R-S-E, Quran, Q-U-R-A-N. If you look it up on Facebook, you'll find it, inshallah. So, in that, when he was writing Riyadh al-Salihin, he said, you found it? Okay. He said that what I did is I wanted to put for the people something, because there's so many hadith. Look, there's so many hadith. And sometimes people read hadith, they separate from Quran. They get too busy, right? Or they just say, you know what, forget that. That's too much. I'm just going to go with Quran. So they end up rejecting one or the other, right? Imam al-Nawawi, he's thinking, he's solution oriented. He said, I want to compile a book that has hadith by subject that deals with riyadat and nafs, meaning like exercise for the soul, right? Tahdib, right? And purification of the soul, fada'il. And he said, and I want to put a subject, and at the beginning of every chapter, I'm going to put Quran, verses of the Quran related to the section of hadith. So he has Quran, hadith. So anybody, it could be, this is, the Riyadh al-Salihin is like a book that like every home should have. It gives the family that interaction with Quran and hadith, right? On a subject base, because we like subject base, right now, and anybody can just go through it. Of course, there are all other great books similar, right? That like Muntakhab al-Hadith also has a nice selection of different. So it's good to know what's available. So Imam Nawawi said, I made istikhara to Allah and I wrote Riyadh al-Salihin. Before writing any book, he will make istikhara to Allah and he will say, وَمَا تَوْفِيقِ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. And there's no tawfiq except with Allah. Now he's going to write Kitab al-Adhkar about dua. In Kitab al-Adhkar, he said, many people wrote great books on dua, but they wrote the chain of narration. قال محمد عن أحمد عن. While the people went through the names, they got exhausted. So they don't make it to the dua. Right? So by the time, it became too complicated. Imam Nawawi wanted to make it easy on the people. He says, so I minimized the chain. Only when it was needed. But other than that, I just focus on the dua and how and practices related to the dua. Then the last Kitab al-Majmu'. Kitab al-Majmu', there was two great scholars. One named Imam al-Ghazali, who wrote Kitab al-Wasit. Imam al-Ghazali was such an ocean of knowledge that many of his books scholars can't explain because of his level of knowledge. So that's how complicated his works are because of the depthness. So Imam al-Ghazali wrote Kitab al-Wasit. Imam al-Shirazi wrote Kitab al-Muhaddab. Imam al-Nawawi said, as he's writing with his adab, with his manners, he said, Kana imaman jalilan. There's two great imams, two noble great imams, who wrote Katabu or Kataba Kitaban. They wrote two jalilan, two honorable books. So he's already given respect to the authors and to the books. And then he mentions things that, some points that need a clarification. So he said, I made istikhara to Allah. And that's how he began to explain the book Al-Muhaddab, one of those books. And it became known as Al-Majmu', which ended up being an encyclopedia of 25 volumes that has the depthness of fiqh in the school of Imam al-Shafi'i, rahimahullah. But Imam al-Nawawi, if we take lessons from his adab, from his manners, we find that number one, he will give recognition to previous scholars. Number two, he will recognize their works. He won't look down upon them. Number three, he will make istikhara to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And number four, he will write, he will tell you the purpose of why he's writing. Right? This is it just in that we get a lot of lessons, inshallah. So next week we will cover the hadith number 1 again. Innamal amalu binniyat. Actions are judged by their intention, but we will cover it from a different angle. And this explanation actually is the explanation of Imam al-Nawawi himself. And what better explanation than the one of the author himself, right? Because he's the one that knows the angles that. So alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Wa sallallahu wa baraka ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Wa ayyakum.